3 insane Dogman stories. Number 1. That crazy Dogman picked a fight with me. Dear Scary Stories NYC. I recently saw 2 young-looking dogmen walking along the edge of my property. When I was investigating the area, one of the 2 creatures, who each stood as tall as I do, charged me. This is my true story of how I managed to live through the event. I don't believe it myself, so feel free to call me a liar. If you told this story to me, I wouldn't believe you either. I live in the Great Lakes region, but I don't want to get any more specific about it than that. I live in an area without many trees, where in a lot of places you can see for miles. It would seem to be an unlikely place to find creatures like dogmen living, since there doesn't seem like there would be enough cover for them, especially when it's still light out. Nevertheless, I was walking our property toward the small grove at the back, which marks the back end of our land. I guess it's probably about 18 to 21 or 22 trees by this point, the closest thing to a forest, within walking distance. Often, as I approach it, I can hear the sound of birds in the trees. But on that particular day, all I could hear was the wind and the sound of my own footsteps. Something felt weird, but I'm not the kind of person to allow a strange feeling to change my plans. I don't know if I disbelieve in psychic impressions, but I would prefer to exert my conscious control rather than allow superstitions and subconscious notions to frighten me back to bed. In other words, the more my gut told me that something was wrong, and the more my heart beat too fast, the more determined I became to finish checking out the woods before I finished the rest of my chores. If you don't monitor that little grove, all manner of creatures can make a home that I might not want on my property. Better to nip things in the bud, chase the hornets out before they've finished building their nest, as it were. Let me ask you, have you ever found it hard to breathe and felt your chest tightening up just because you were getting scared? Me neither. Except that was what was happening in that moment. I had to finally stop, take a few slow, deep breaths, then look around for a minute. And I mean look around, as in 360 degrees. Everything seemed normal. Everything was mellow. It was a beautiful sunset coming to a close, and about to head on into what promised to be a lovely late summer, early autumn night. So why wasn't I even hearing the sound of crickets, let alone birds? That should have been enough for me to put off the inspection of those trees for another day. But I'm Taurus the Bull, so I took another deep breath, and then I resumed walking toward the grove. It sounded like a dog was screaming at me as the leaves in front of me shook and parted. I mean, I guess you could call it a dog screaming, or maybe a man barking, take your pick. But it was an inarticulate and intense expression of anger and indignation, coming from what sounded like a mouth very much like that of a wolf, or maybe a jackal. I looked and saw the silhouette of a man emerging from those trees, and my first thought was that this was an insane lunatic who was about to do away with me in my own backyard. I turned to run and heard growling behind me. Inhuman growling. When I looked behind this time, I saw the canine mouth that was making those sounds, and I saw the human silhouette, now fully lit, but still colored dark black, because it was covered in short fur. I was getting a little bit more information with each glance, but it was like I was seeing 2 different things. When I could hear the creature yelp in pain and stop chasing me, I turned to watch the craziest spectacle I am ever gonna see. There were 2 of these creatures, and they were both men and canines at the same time. They were upright, like men, bipedal, like men, and they had hands like men, or, well, like monsters anyway. In many other ways, they resembled black wolves, sleek and agile, athletic, unlike anything a human could ever hope to attain. They were my height, around 6 feet, and from what I've read since that evening, I'd guess that these were young adults, maybe brothers. It seems most reports in my region of the country these days have creatures larger than 6 feet. So what was happening was that the one dogman was holding the other one back, trying to prevent him from attacking me. One wanted to destroy me for some reason, and the other was trying to prevent this from happening. The angry one escaped and ran toward me, and I screamed and tried to get back to the house. Our property is rectangular shaped, and I was running across it the long way. Unlike the property, I am not in the shape I was before the pandemic, so I did my best to get back before I collapsed, or before the dogman caught me. The two creatures looked like twins, and the only way I could tell the difference was by their behavior. I watched them fight one time as I was out of breath, leaning on my knees and trying to slow my heart down enough that I could run some more toward the house. When the angry dog broke away this time, I just sat down on the ground, panting heavily, and waiting for him to come get me. At the very last second, that other one grabbed the lunatic dogman, and I realized I'd been granted one final chance for survival. I wearily leaned on the knee of the beast that wanted to bash my skull in, and pushed myself back up to a standing position. It lunged at me while I was close, and there was one moment when I was pushing him back, while his twin was pulling him from the other side. If that other dogman was willing to go to such efforts to save my life, I needed to at least try to get back to the house. And so I ran again, this time unsure where my strength to continue was even coming from. When I got inside, I locked the door behind me, and the next thing I remember was waking up sometime later with a bruise on the back of my head from where I fell when I fainted. It took me a minute to remember what had happened, and when I did and looked for the monster dogman, I couldn't see them anywhere. Every one of my family and friends know this story. I've become a dogman maniac in the months since this happened. They all know that if they approach those trees behind my house and they don't hear birds or crickets, that they better turn around and retreat. And if they don't do that, then they might find themselves the next poor soul crying out into the night. That crazy dogman picked a fight with me.
I'd like to take a moment to say that if you have a scary story you'd like to tell us here, you can write Peter at peterbernard.com, or you can call our new Scary Stories hotline number and leave it to us in the form of a voicemail message. It's easy to remember. 804-LESCARY. That's 804-LESCARY, or 804-537-2279.
Number 2. The Slithering Dogman. Dear Scary Stories NYC, I had a nightmarish encounter with the dogman on a hiking trail in Minnesota, although I'm not going to mention which one. This creature did not walk on its hind legs. In fact, it crouched down very low to the ground, like an alligator, and it sort of moved in an S shape, not unlike the way a snake does. I had been sitting and napping, leaning on a tree the other night, one of the last warm days we're probably going to get this year. A cold breeze came and woke me up, and it's a good thing it did, too, as slithering right up to me was this nasty-looking hairy dogman, but it was flat down low to the ground, like a gator. Its arms were out to the side and bent in, like it thought that I wouldn't be able to see it if it kept low or something. I screamed and ran out of there, and the thing slithered along after me. It was not really going very fast. This was not a dogman that could run as fast as a car, as I've heard you talk about. I saw a crowd of people up ahead, and so I ran toward them. When I could take a chance to look behind me, I would see that hideous beast slithering along on the ground after me, and I just kept running toward the crowd. I had assumed the small crowd of people would frighten the beast off, but instead, it dove right toward them, biting at people's legs, causing a chaotic tumult. Everyone was screaming like it was the movie Jaws as I ran away from that horrible scene and into my car. I called the police as I drove out of there toward my home, telling them that some rabid dog was attacking people at the location I was leaving. By the time I got home, it was dark out, and I was ready for bed. In fact, I was even going to skip dinner and just crash. When I got out of the car, though, the crash came from the bushes near my garbage cans. Out of the darkness slithered that flat-to-the-ground dogman, growling like it was planning on taking some kind of revenge on me. I ran around the house to the front steps, and I slipped, banging my face hard into the stairs. I gave myself a bloody nose, and my vision was impaired for a while. But I somehow got up those stairs and got the key into the lock. I was turning the key and opening the door when the dogman leaped onto my back, and the two of us tumbled into the front of the house. I was nearly blind with pain, and although I got up and away from the beastman, I banged into plants and stepped on a cat and fell sideways into the next room, onto the floor. I knew I had to get away, but I didn't think it was realistically going to happen. Everything was going black when I heard a big explosion and a yelping canine. When I came to, I was in the back seat of my elderly dad's car, being driven to the emergency room. He had pulled his old hunting rifle off the wall and loaded it up in the time I was banging into half the house and falling down. He told me the thing stood up, and he hit it dead on, causing it to back out of the house. He thought it was over and done with, but the beast just sort of stood back up, roared at him, and then walked off in a cranky way. My dad didn't think that he was any more hurt than if he'd been hit with a pea shooter. That's how strong that creepy, slithering monster thing was. My daddy told me the thing was looking like it was gonna try the Slithering Dogman. Nate does. So he felt he had to take him out. Now, I don't know if that's actually true, because some of the things my daddy says are sort of a little bit strange. I don't mean he's crazy or anything, but maybe just a little bit imaginative. God love him, though. If it weren't for that old man, I might not have survived my encounter with. Hey everyone, it's the new Henry Lee Dogman throw pillow. It's just like laying your face up against me, except the claws and teeth on the pillow won't tear you to shreds, hooray! Also, it doesn't smell like a wet dog, woohoo! Look right below this very video to find out how to order. It's the softest way yet to support the channel and keep us online. Number 3. Is this a Hodag in the snow? Dear Scary Stories NYC. My nephew from Wisconsin claimed he took this photo a day or two ago when he got stuck in a snowstorm while hiking not far from Waukesha. This is just to the southeast of the Lapham Peak Observation Tower. Apparently it really did snow, and his parents really were concerned when he was late getting home in the storm. But as for the rest of the story, none of us can really say as to whether it's real or not. The kid is known to pull pranks, so if this is real, he's sort of the boy who cried wolf one too many times. Still, he was in Wisconsin, and that is where the Hodag is known to live, at least according to legend. The thing is, those legends are not supposed to be real. The Hodag is supposed to be a local story that's kept alive to entertain children and tourists. It's not supposed to be an actual beast that you might bump into in the night. Assuming this photo is real, and admittedly that would be a huge assumption, this creature is pretty flippin' large. Look, my nephew does not have Photoshop, but he does have one of those other art programs for the computer where you can touch up photos. Maybe he took a picture of some dark rocks and they look like a monster with the snow swirling around. Still, it's been a day and the kid hasn't changed his story so far. I don't know. What do you think? Could this be a Hodag? Could it be any living thing at all? Is it a trick of light and shadow? An optical illusion? Or will the Hodag have the last laugh on all the rest of us by turning out to have been real all along? After all, what better survival strategy can any creature in the woods have than to convince the human beings that you never even existed in the first place? Maybe the Hodag will turn out to be the smartest living thing in Wisconsin. At any rate, with my tongue firmly in my cheek and my respect to whoever or whatever created this image, I'll leave it up to you to decide. Is this a Hodag in the snow? Thanks, Biggie. Now that some of us are actually meeting up in person again, what we all need is a tongue-in-cheek conversation starter, like the I'm not sure about moon landings but werewolves are real line of hoodies. Go to the link in the description and scroll down to find the different kinds of both pullover and zipper hoodies for men and women. Plus, for some reason, we made wife beaters for women as well. If you'd like this design on anything in particular, we can put it on t-shirts, sweatshirts, or whatever if you ask, at no extra cost to you. Please note that the way we made these has the Dogman fighting the astronaut on the back and our Scary Stories skull logo on the front, small in the upper left. If you would like us to put the large image on the front, we can do that as well if you ask us in a comment or email. That is, except for the zipper hoodies, which we can't print large images on the front of, only the back. We have a special discount code SPACEWOLF. It's all one word, and I think it needs to be all caps, but I'm not sure. Use that on checkout for 10% off from now until November 28, 2022. And now here's Hank. Hank? Everyone loves dear Kathy B. That's the way it's supposed to be. She's cool and likes to have some fun. She's our sweet Kathy Barrickman. What a surprise to see a super chat donation from our own Kathy Barrickman earlier today. Kathy, you don't need to do things like that. We still thank you on each and every new story. We hope you're feeling better and that you can stay on a nice long good luck streak. You're a brave and determined person that we all love and are rooting for. Thank you for your donation. As for everyone else, if you'd like to be as cool as Kathy Barrickman, check out this next message from our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Hank? Thanks, Biggie, and thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.